get into this next song, think about something this week that He's done that's great for you or a loved one. He's moving in this place. He's going to continue to move with us this morning as we continue to lift up His name. Keep singing with us. Darkness runs for cover, and when you move, no one's turned away. 'Cause where you are, fear turns into praises, and where you are, no heart's left unchanged. Here we go. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. And when you the outcast finds a family. When you move, the orphan finds a home. Yes. Lord, here we are. Oh, teach us to love mercy with humble hearts. We bow down at your throne, Jesus. Oh, so come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Oh, so come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. So King of all generations, let every tongue and nation surrender all to you alone, Jesus. King of all generations, let every tongue and nation surrender all to you alone. Oh, you alone. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Oh, so come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Let justice roll on. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Oh, so come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship
Good morning. Have a seat. MCC, you all look amazing. Happy July, right? Because it's 80 again. I don't know what is going on, right? Anybody else love a 30-mile-an-hour south wind and 80 degrees? Just like my favorite time of year, fall. I mean, anyway. Hey, I want to, this is not on my list of announcements. So real fast. This is Pastor Appreciation Month. Okay, and there's a table out there. If you would, drop a quick note, say something to our pastors, let them know you love them. There's something I'm going to coin: without pastor appreciation, you have pastor depreciation. Whenever you guys let them know how much you love them and how much you're encouraged by what they do, it recharges their batteries. Okay, and I can speak this from experience. I know whenever I would have students send me a postcard that said, hey, what you taught on last week, or the series you just did, or whatever the case may be, man, it encouraged me so much to know that all the effort and all the work I was putting in, that somebody was hearing that and that it meant something to them. So be sure, we do set a month aside for that, okay, as a church, a big church, God's church. So be sure and let your pastors know this month. Do something nice for them. Drop them a note, and there's a place to do that out there, all right? So if you're new this week, great time to be here. Brand new series called Hope Changes Everything. And I want you to think about that for just a minute, what that really means to say that hope changes everything. Here's what that means. At the end of everything, when you strip everything else aside, regardless of what's going on in your life, regardless of what's happening, that a little glimmer of hope changes your entire perspective. And then through this series, we're going to learn what it looks like in light of what's going on in our world today to have hope and what that really looks like. So I'm glad you're here for the front side of that. I think it will be amazing. Now, if you are a first-time guest here, or if you're new here, if you're new to what's going on, do I have those slides? If you're new to what's going on here, you can easily let us know you're here. And we would love to know that you're here, because we're probably more excited that you're here than you are that you're here. But anyway, we won't talk about that. So you can easily do that by text the number 2, text new to MCC to the number 94,000, or in the little seat back pocket in front of you, there's a connection card. You can simply fill that out and drop it in one of the little boxes in the back, or hand it to somebody in the sound booth. They'll make sure we get it, right? But you can fill that card out. Let us know who you are. And if you do that and you're new here and you're in the auditorium, if you're new online, you should really come do this in person. If you think it's good online, you should really be here, because the music's like 11-4 times better, okay? But drop that off, and then out in the atrium, you can stop by the welcome desk, and we've got a gift for you. We hey, thanks for being here. We're excited that you're here. We're pleased that you're with us. Something free, right? And for the low price, I'm just kidding. You guys can laugh today. It's all right. You guys are a bunch of uptight people. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. You guys are like a TP in a wigwam. 2 tenths. Anyway, so that's a good one. I stole that, by the way. That's not original. Now, also, if you would love to give back to what God's doing here, right? If you're new here, this is not for you. We would never ask you to give for what we feel God has called us to do as a church. But if you're a part of the church family here, and you want to give back to what God's doing, and you want to say, you know what, I want to make sure and fund the ministry of God's church through MCC. If you would love to do that, here's how you do that. You can simply text the dollar amount to 84321. That's real simple. You can go to monettcommunity.church, hit the give tab, and do that. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way, write out a check, put some money in an envelope, and drop it in those boxes in the back. And it's way more than just giving a dollar, right? It's an act of worship where you say, you know what, God, I trust you with my money to the point that I'm willing to open my hand and give. And honestly, what that looks like is you open your hand to give, but really what you do is you open your hand to receive. And so if you'd love to be a part of that, we would love for you to be a part of that, just to see how God would bless your life. And then this is something that's new that we're doing, and we have actually already done the first week, but belonging. This is the new 4-week devotional that we're doing in small groups. And I would encourage you, if you're not in a small group, to get in a small group. There's several that you could jump in even this week. You could go through this. And this just goes back to our year-long theme of Family Matters, that we want to grow together as a family unit, grow together as a church, learn about each other, learn to love each other, learn to love God together, and what it means to grow as a family, as a church family. And so I would encourage you to jump in, get this devotional. It's a real quick 4-week. There's there's a little bit of reading to do, but it's not bad. If I can read it, you can read it. I promise you. I hate to read, okay? So, but I would encourage you to jump in, do this, help yourself grow in this time. Help yourself grow and learn what it means to belong. We all want to belong to something. We all do. That's the reason whenever our team wins, we say, we won. You didn't win. You watched your team win. I say it when the Chiefs win. I'm like, we won. Shh, hush. Nobody likes those Jersey people. You a Giants fan, Jets fan? Yeah, they're terrible. Anyway, to be later discussed. But we all want to belong, right? That's the reason we say those things like, we won. Because you want to belong to something. And that's what this is all about, what it looks like to belong. Okay, so jump in that. The MCC app, we just want to remind you guys, we have an app for that. We have a church app. And it's got everything that you could ever want to know about MCC Church on that app. Messages, giving, small groups, all those things are there for you to find. Information, calendars, all those things are there that you can find out what's going on. Download that. Check it out. You can set up push notifications, which I would recommend because it will tell you about special things that are going on. I know we've been working on that. I think we've got the kinks worked out in that some. So you can find out things that are going on. Things like the bonfire's canceled because we're not going to burn down all of Lawrence and Berry County, right? So those kind of things would be pushed out through those deals, okay? And then last but not least, D1 class. If you're new here, I would encourage you to get in this class. Learn more about what MCC Church is about. And there's one Sunday, November 13th, this year, 2022, from 4:30 to 7:30. Come check that out. See what we're all about and see what that means to be a part of this church and what it means to follow God and grow here at MCC. Now, I want to encourage you. We came off an elder retreat last week, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about this, but I look at Todd, and I see if he shakes his head, and I'm like, okay, I'll just walk off the stage. But I'm telling you guys, it was refreshing, it was impactful, and the leadership of our church is, I would say, as encouraged as they've ever been about the direction that God is taking us as a church and our opportunity to impact Monette with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I want to encourage you guys to be a part of that as well, to jump in on what it means to be not just someone who sits here, but someone who's a part of what we want to do as a body of believers, okay? So think about that as we talk about hope changes everything today. Stand up and let's sing some more.
You give life, you love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Sing that again. You give life. Give life, you love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that all the earth. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross is spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living. Sing hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. God sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Here we go, let's do that again. Here came the morning, yes, that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Yeah. Jesus, yours is the victory. Oh, hallelujah. Praise the Lord and set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord and set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. God, you are my
Jesus Christ is our living hope. And let's pray to this Savior who gave us and sacrificed so much for us so that we could experience hope. Lord God, thank you for this morning. Thank you for these families that are here together, that are part of your family. God, thank you that we have the privilege and the honor and the freedoms to come and worship, to zero in on you, who you are. Thank you for this time that we were able to glorify you. And God, as we moved into our time of teaching, God, I pray that you would just get me out of the way. Speak through me. God, give us the hope that you desire for us to have in a world that is fallen and that is broken. So God, open our hearts, open our minds, prepare us for what you're about to do. Praise things in the name of Jesus. Amen. You can have a seat. I love going to Florida. I don't know if you guys enjoy Florida or not. I've found out, actually, that I love it more than my family loves it. But I love going to Florida. But for my family, going to the beach is not a simple task. All right? Some of you know me, some of you do not. I have 4 kids. My oldest son is in a wheelchair. My youngest son is paralyzed on his left side. And so us going to the beach takes some extra strategy, you know. You have to really plan. You have to really think about how we're going to do this. Now, one of the biggest things when you're going to the beach with the wheelchair is you got to figure out how to get a beach on a wheelchair, all right? Or a wheelchair on the beach. Sorry, I got my words mixed up there. Because if you've ever tried to push a wheelchair through sand, that's a heart attack in a bottle. I mean, that's just waiting to kill somebody to do that. So years and years and years ago at my last church, I had some buddies. We planted a multi-site. It was in a rural community, and I had some guys that were just like, yeah, we can build that. You know, whatever it was, he could make it happen. And they actually took Micah's wheelchair, the wheelchair he sits in. He has to have special seating and things like that. And they were able to modify it in such a way that we could pop his regular wheels off, put on a new axle, put on these great big like balloon type wheels for the beach, and we could transform his regular wheelchair into a beach battle station wheelchair. I mean, this was great. And so we got real excited, and then, hey, first time we're going to probably be able to go use this, and it's just jacked about it. So we head down to Destin, which is one of my favorite areas to go to in the Panhandle, and we get there, and I think it was like early afternoon, if I remember correctly. This is quite a while ago. And we're excited just to go down and, hey, let's experience the beach for just a little bit while we get here, when we first got here on the first day. And so we, pull out the wheelchair, we get the all attachments, all the stuff, we pop off the wheels, put on the new wheels, we're beach battle station wheelchair, and we're about a 5-minute walk to the beach with the wheelchair. So my family of how many do I have? 6. We were walking down to the beach, about 5-minute walk, and about 3.5 minutes into the walk, all of a sudden we hear, pop! And we look over at Micah, and Micah's sitting like this in his wheelchair because one of the back wheels on his wheelchair had popped. Now, you have to understand that these aren't just wheels you can go to the store and buy. These are specialty wheels. You can't go to Walmart and get a patch kit for these wheels. Trust me, I tried, okay? This is one of those things that, man, they're expensive, and you got to get them from specialty stores. You got all this stuff because they're designed for special needs and those types of things. And so with that wheel popping and us being there for the beach for like 5 days, all of a sudden, all the hopes, all the dreams we had about this fun-filled beach vacation, out the window. Because if we couldn't transform his wheelchair to a beach wheelchair, there's no way we're doing the beach. Now, I tell that story because it's simply a story of disappointment. It's a small example of a greater reality in life, a much bigger reality, that we are all going to face disappointment in this life. We're all going to face hardships. We're all going to face challenges. And there will be times of life that we're disappointed. You can just think through all the different examples. Going back to grade school, I didn't get picked for the kickball team, or maybe later on, I didn't get picked for the select team. We've experienced those disappointments. My boyfriend, girlfriend broke up with me. We've experienced that disappointment. I lost my job, or I didn't get the job that I wanted. That's disappointment. And we're all going to face those challenges. We're all going to face those unexpected change of plans, change of direction of our lives, some of which are massive. They are major, major changes of life. Some of them are smaller, like a beach wheel popping, on the wheelchair. But we're all going to experience those. And that disappointment from time to time, it can really impact our hope, especially as we deal with some of those bigger things of life. It can impact our hope, and it can lead to what I'm going to call heart trouble or heart problems. Not like cardiovascular disease, heart problems, but those things that can actually they just really impact the very foundation of our lives. Maybe it's you had a dream. A dream of this preferred future that you wanted to have, and you've just been convinced that this dream was going to come to fruition, it was going to happen, but all of a sudden you're starting to realize it just doesn't seem like this dream is going where I want it to go, and all of a sudden you feel like you've had a balloon popped in your life. And you're wondering if things will ever happen, and then it's affecting your hope, and that leads to the heart problems, and it's affecting your soul. Maybe your disappointment centers around your finances. There's always more month at the end of the money. As you struggle through that month after month after month, it's just like popping a balloon in your life. And your hope can start to wane a little bit and go, man, it's just affecting things in my life. Maybe your loss of hope has to do with the loss of a loved one. Whoop. Or maybe it's an illness. And those things, as you've dealt with losing a loved one or a serious illness or an ongoing illness, it's just like those balloons of life are popping. And for some of you, it's just like, man, one after another, after another, after another. And you're just wondering if there really is any hope. Now, the question with all of this is really not if it's going to happen, it's when. is going to happen. We live in a sin-filled, fallen world, and disappointments and heartache and things that impact our hope are just, they're going to happen. So the big question is not if, it's when. And the bigger question is, how are we going to deal with it when it does happen? Well, what's our strategy? What's our strategy to deal with those balloons that pop in our lives? And how do we maintain a hope that changes everything in the midst of all that? Now, here's what you have to realize. Whether you realize it or not, you have a strategy. You have a strategy of how you deal with these disappointments. You have a strategy of how you deal with those challenges of life. Now, you may not call it that. You may not say, oh, here's my strategy. You may not say that, but you have one. The thing you need to look at is, what's the pattern? What's the pattern you fall into when these crises, when these disappointments happen in your life? What do you fall into? For some of us, our strategy is simply to ignore it. La, 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 I can't hear it, I don't see it, I'm going to pretend it's not there. But here's the thing, that may be our strategy, is to ignore what's happening in our lives, but how much hope does that really bring? For some of us, our strategy, and again, we may not even realize we're doing this, our strategy, though, is to hurt people. I'm hurting because look at this destruction around my life, so therefore, since I'm hurting, I'm going to hurt you. And that's our strategy. That's how we approach dealing with those disappointments and that loss of hope. Some of us, our strategy is to hide from it. This is where a lot of times we can fall into the addictions. We can fall into the alcohol. Alcohol is just a mask that when we misuse it and abuse it to cover up the hurts and pains of life, getting caught up in illegal drugs or the misuse of prescription drugs is really just something we're hiding. We're trying to mask those hurts, those pains in life. Maybe we try to do it with food. That's one of the challenges for me. I mean, I can be a easy stress eater, and I hit disappointments in life, and I'm in the pantry going, okay, I'm really not hungry, but I'm going to eat something because I'm dealing with disappointment in life. Maybe we pursue entertainment, and we think, well, I'm just going to watch, all the episodes of Ted Lasso, and I'm just going to pretend that nothing else is going on in the world. And that's how we're just trying to hide from those disappointments. We're going to hide from those challenges of life. But the question we always have to ask is, with those different strategies we have, how much do those things really bring us hope? The reality is, I'm going to argue that they probably don't bring us a whole lot of hope. Now, one of the things, though, that so excites me about our God and is so awesome about our God is our God doesn't pretend that this doesn't happen. Our God doesn't pretend that, hey, your life should be perfect and everything should be wonderful. Our God is very, very aware that the balloons of life will pop in our lives and we will experience disappointment. God faces this reality head on. And Jesus says that to each and every one of us, look, guys, I've got a better way than the la, 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 or I'm going to hide from it, or I'm going to hurt. I've got a much better way, a much better, if you want to call it this, I don't like calling it, a much better strategy. Not manufacturing hope, not a pretend hope, but a true hope. Now, as we begin this series today, Hope Changes Everything, I want to dig into something that Jesus talked to his disciples about that is immensely powerful. If we can understand and embrace these truths, and I'm going to work really hard to give us some practical ways to say that in the midst of those balloons popping in life, when hope is waning and we're struggling, here's some very practical ways to do what Jesus said to do to find the hope we want in this world. So, in the final hours, let me just set this up a little bit. In the final hours before Jesus was headed to his crucifixion, Jesus gave his followers here some challenges, some encouragement. He gave them some direction, some incredible direction. And he gave us clarity, really, to what his life was all about and what our lives need to be about. And in regard to what we're talking about today with these balloons of life popping all around us, look at this. This is where we're going to be. If you want to follow along in your own Bible today, we're going to be in John chapter 14, so fourth gospel in the New Testament, and we'll be doing this. But look what he said here in John 14:1, first part of verse 1. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Now, if you're Sean Hannity, you hear that at the end of his, or if you watch him, at the end of his show. But why is Jesus saying this? Why is Jesus saying this to his disciples? What led to him needing to say this to his disciples in the first place? Why is this so important? Well, to answer that, let's back the bus up just a little bit. Some pretty heavy balloon popping had been happening in the disciples' lives. This is a group of people who had completely dedicated their lives to following Jesus. I mean, not just like in words only, left jobs, left family, left everything they knew, and they completely dedicated themselves to Jesus. And they had a pretty amazing hope about what Jesus was going to do. And they were following him all in with everything he was doing because of this hope. And the reality is for them, these guys that were following Jesus, this had been an emotional roller coaster these past few days as they entered into Jerusalem, because they'd march into Jerusalem and they call it what we call Palm Sunday. And this was a march of victory. You know, here comes the conquering king, Jesus. They're waving palm branches and everything, and that's what this is a sign of conquering. And the dream the disciples had, this dream balloon that they had about what life was going to be like, is that Jesus was going to go into Jerusalem. He was going to overtake the Roman Empire and kick them out of this, free the Jewish people from their oppression. And then together, Jesus and the disciples were going to rule over all of Israel and eventually rule over all of the world. Why? Because Jesus was the Messiah. He was it. But then Jesus, here's this emotional roller coaster. Jesus lays this bombshell on his disciples and pops just a massive balloon in their life when he tells them, oh, by the way, I'm going to die. A dead Messiah was not part of their plan. That was not part of their hopes and dreams. That just didn't fit into a king, a conquering king. Yes, that was part of their plan, but death? No. Not part of the disciples' plans. So to say that they were disappointed, to say were they confused, to say that the hope was waning a little bit, probably an understatement. But then on top of that, Jesus had told them, look, one of you guys that we've been doing life with each other, you're going to betray me. What? No, not me, Jesus. Again, pop, 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 pop. Balloons popping all over. Then he says, hey, Peter, probably one of the greater leaders in the group. He said, Peter, you're gonna fall away. You're gonna deny me 3 times. And so these guys are going, no, not Peter. He's the rock. You know, that's what we say. Peter. But the disciples just had to be stunned. Just the carnage of balloons popped all around them. And as they experienced this, they had hopes, they had dreams, they had plans, and all of a sudden, it all seemed like it was falling apart in front of them. They were facing fear, they were facing failure, they were facing confusion, and they were facing disappointment. And even though, but this is what's amazing about our God, even though Jesus was on his way to face torture, ridicule, a brutal, horrific death that I don't even think we can fully comprehend or understand, Jesus didn't focus on himself in that moment. He was concerned for his disciples. He was concerned for those people following him. They were hurting, confused, anxious, and Jesus wanted to give them hope in the midst of all the balloons of life popping around them. And so Jesus lays out this foundation of hope, saying, here's the foundation on which you build your life of hope on. And in these next few verses, this is what he breaks down and what I want to try to break down for you guys. So, number 1 here. When we're looking to embrace hope and stay focused on the ultimate source of hope, number 1, we need to remember hope begins with trusting in God's presence. Hope begins with trusting in God's presence. Now, don't just, okay, that's a little nebulous. Hang on, I'm going to put some teeth to this. Look at this, John 14:1. Do not let your hearts be troubled. So again, at this point, with everything we know, Jesus is looking deep into the souls of his disciples and realizing there's just this cloud of darkness that's coming over them. There's anxiety, there's frustration, there's confusion, and he's just feeling like that's engulfing them. So he's getting ready to speak into their lives. And for some of you here today, I believe that's probably where you're at as well. There's fear. You feel like the darkness is engulfing you. There's anxiety. There's confusion. There's disappointment because this has been going on in your life. And Jesus is saying this to you today as well, because he says to them, here's how you do it. Trust in God. Trust also in me. Trust in God. Trust also in me. Now, what Jesus is commanding us to do here is to look to him to calm our troubled hearts. Don't look to busyness and trying to do more things and get more activities. And even if it's for him, not doing things to distract us in order to manufacture hope or hide the hope. Not things like that. He's not just suggesting this either. This is a command. Trust in God. Trust also in me. You want the foundation of hope in your life. This is where it begins. It starts with trusting God and trusting in Jesus. Now, depending on what translation you're looking at, it may use the word believe instead of trust. The reality is it's really still getting to the same concept. Believe in God, believe also in me. But the heartbeat of the tense that's used there when it comes to trust or believe is actually to keep on. Keep on, keep on, keep on, keep on, keep it on, keep on, keep on. This is an active thing that we need to do. You want a foundation of hope. Don't stop. It's not a belief that's inactive. It's not a belief that's just passive. It's an active faith to keep on trusting. Don't stop trusting. Now, what's that mean? Let me explain it this way. If you are out someplace and you want to get home, does simply believing that your car can get you home get you home? No. I can believe my car will get me home, but it's in the moment that I have an active belief, an active trust, where I finally get in the car, put my foot on the brake, turn the key, turn it on, and start driving. When I put my trust in that car that I'm going to drive it and get me home, that's how you're going to get home. There's an active faith, an active trust. It's not passive. And what Jesus meant here is the same way, to keep on trusting in God, to keep on trusting in Jesus, even when the balloons are popping. That ultimate hope's not going to be found in things of the world or denying the reality of the trouble. That's not what's going to bring us the hope. The foundation of ultimate hope lies in an active trust of a trustworthy God. The foundation of ultimate hope lies in an active trust of a trustworthy God. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I still look at that and go, okay, but how? It's still kind of, okay, trust. I mean, okay, but how? One of the best ways we can better embrace this reality, to stay focused on who God is the more we know about God, listen, the more we know about God, the more we can trust God. So and think about it this way, as our knowledge of God increases, our fear and lack of hope will decrease, and our hope increases. The more we can trust in God, the more we can know about God is really what I'm getting at. The more we can know about God, the more that fear decreases, which allows our hope to increase. So we need to focus on God's sovereignty, on the truth that God has ultimate power. God's responsible for the outcomes. We need to focus on the truth that God is omniscient. He knows everything. God already knows. What's happening in your life is not a surprise to him. He knows already. He knows that if we focus on that, we need to focus on the truth that God is omnipotent. He is able to do anything. Anything. The more we can embrace and focus and understand those things, our hope goes up and our fear decreases. Our hope goes up and our fear decreases. The more we focus, we need to remember that God is holy. God is trustworthy. God is merciful. God is loving. We need to remember that our God is a God of justice and a God of faithfulness, because the beginning of hope begins by trusting God's presence and trusting him to be and do what he promised us he would be and do. But then number two, the second thing is hope continues as we stay focused on eternity. I really think this is one of those things, especially in our microwave society with a microwave mentality of we want it and we want it now. This is one of the greatest challenges. One of the things that could help us so much in embracing more hope is focus, as we say, focused on eternity. I don't know if you realize that or not, but we were wired to have this deep desire for heaven. In our souls are marked for heaven, a longing for heaven. Author, theologian C.S. Lewis described this longing for heaven this way. He said, "The longing for heaven is the secret signature of each soul." Isn't that great? It's a secret signature of each soul. The incommunicable. In other words, you can't explain it. You can't express it. I mean, it's why I was trying to stutter and stare. You can't, it's just in your soul, it's this longing, this incommunicable and unappeasable want. We long for the permanence of heaven. Look what Jesus says here. He continues on, verse 2. In my Father's house are many rooms. My Father's house is just another way of saying, hey, in heaven, guys, in heaven. In heaven, there's more than enough room. There's plenty of room for everybody. That's what he's saying. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going to go there to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. See, what Jesus is telling us here is how this longing for heaven will be fulfilled. Because when the balloons are popping around us, but when we're in a relationship with Jesus Christ, we can find comfort and hope for our troubled hearts with the reality, with the truth that Jesus Christ right now, when you are in a relationship with him, in this moment, he is preparing a permanent, and that's such a key word, and I'm going to camp on that for a minute, a permanent eternal home for everyone who knows him. Now, you may be saying, well, God, what? That doesn't make sense. Let me try to connect some dots. For a season, several years ago at this point, my wife and I were licensed foster parents in the state of Illinois. The reason in the state of Illinois is because we lived in the state of Illinois. But to become a licensed foster parent in the state of Illinois, and I think a lot of it's true in Missouri too. Missouri is a little bit laxer than Illinois was with some of this stuff. But we had to take a series of classes to become licensed foster parents. And while a lot of it was kind of like, type stuff to me, there was one thing that just even to this day, just resonates with me. I remember this, and I think I'll always remember this. And then what they told us was this. When you have children that need foster homes, or when you're fostering children and they need a safe place for a season, it's not unusual for them to hide things, or to even kind of hoard things. And we don't get shocked, they said, if you go into your room and you find a drawer just full of food or something like that, even though you may be feeding them more than enough and there may be plenty of food and there may be plenty, that's a very, very normal thing. Why? Because in their world, and I know some of you guys are experiencing this on both sides, as a kid and as an adult. Because in their world, they've had no stability. They've had no control. In fact, life may be feeling like they've been very out of control for them. There's been no permanence in that. And so it's not unusual for them to try to find permanence, to try to find stability, to try to find some control through doing something like hiding food. Why? Because deep down in their soul, just like everybody else, they long for permanence. And deep down in all of our souls, we all long for permanence. And that permanence comes in the form of heaven. One author put it this way in one of the books. If as a child you have not known a secure home, it's very likely, so he's not saying it's absolute, it's very likely as you go through life, regardless of your abode or wherever you are, you will not feel at home. Here's the truth about that. As a Christ follower, we are not home until we're in heaven. As a Christ follower, we are not home until we are in heaven. So the reason hope continues as we stay focused on eternity is because when we have a deep underlying heart realization, and when we are that we're in a relationship with Jesus, that when we are in a relationship with Jesus, that Jesus is preparing a permanent eternal home for us. No more trials, no more disappointment, no more uncertainty. No more balloons of life popping around us. And when we can truly embrace that heart knowledge, it can bring rest to our souls in the middle of this troubled world. I debated on telling this story or not, but I feel like I should. One time, Micah, my oldest son, who has cerebral palsy, for those of you who know, he's sitting over here. Sorry to embarrass you, Micah. He's been in and out of the hospital a lot in his life. And there was one time several years ago, he was in the hospital, and things just weren't going well. If you name it, it was going wrong. Becky was pretty much in the hospital with him the whole time. And one of the things that Micah loves is Micah loves old hymns. You may think, well, Todd must not like hymns with the music we do around here. No. Our family, Becky loves to play the piano at home and hymns. And he loves old spirituals, you know. And one of his favorite spirituals that he loves to sing is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. You guys know that one? You know, you may or may not. But Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. It's basically the idea, and it goes back to an Old Testament character and stuff. I don't have time to dig into that a chariot from heaven is coming down low. And to get on so I can go to my permanent home. And so Micah's in his hospital bed in the midst of his pain and his challenges and the hurt he's experiencing, besides the fact of just, you know, the extra challenges he faces day to day. And he and Becky are singing that song together, and then in a moment, Micah looked at her and said, I'd get on. I'd get on. And she looked at him and she said, well, what did you say, Micah? She goes, I'd get on. I'd get on the chariot. And it wasn't a morbid thing. It wasn't like this negative thing. It was this realization in his heart and in his soul that he knew his permanent home was heaven. And in heaven, this pain and these challenges, these balloons popping in his life that he's been experiencing his whole life are going to be gone. And for the first time, he's going to walk and he's going to run and he's going to sit up on his own and he's going to be able to do all these things. Why? Because this is not his permanent home. That heaven is his permanent home. How much hope could we all have if we lived with that same heart? So, hope begins with actively trusting God. It continues as we stay focused on eternity. Number 3, hope is made complete in the fullness of Jesus Christ. Hope is made complete in the fullness of Jesus Christ. Let me explain. Jesus is saying, trust in God, trust also in me, stay focused on eternity. But then Jesus brings it home in really a very, very, very powerful, very, very famous passage. Now, Jesus tells the disciples in John 14, hey guys, look, you know where I'm going. And since you know where I'm going, you know how to get there. Well, all of them are kind of looking at each other. And Thomas, of Doubting Thomas fame, actually is the one that speaks up and basically asks the question that says what everybody else is probably in the room thinking. He's going, hold on, Jesus. We don't know where you're going, and we don't know how to get there. Jesus, we're so confused. Balloons of life are popping. We don't get this. And Jesus responds with, again, one of the most powerful and complete statements that you'll ever hear in your entire life. And he says this, John 14:16. He answered him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life, and no one comes to the Father but through me. He's saying, and what Jesus is getting at here, and what you need to understand about this verse is he's saying, hope is a person. Hope is a person. Hope is not a principle. It's a person. Hope is not a plan. It's not a lifestyle. It's not a list of rules. It's not just inner sincerity. That's not it's not just a philosophy. Hope is not just a feeling or a religion. It's a person. It's Jesus. Jesus is the way. He is the way. Jesus Christ is the way to life. He is the way to heaven. He is the way to God. Jesus Christ is hope. And hope is not something we have to make up or manufacture. He's a person. He's not just a teacher of the way. He's just not just a teller of truth. He's not just an example of life. He is the way. He is the truth. And he is the life. And as the balloons of life are popping all around us, we don't get help for our troubled hearts just by following an example of Jesus or even just reading Jesus' words. We find the true hope by finding Jesus Christ himself. Finding Jesus Christ in all his fullness. And in his fullness, it is the way, the truth, and the life. Now, I'm going to be honest. Got a lot of people watching online, and maybe for some of you even in here, you hear me say that, you hear what Jesus said, and I'm just repeating what Jesus said, and you say, man, isn't Jesus kind of narrow-minded here? I mean, isn't that kind of arrogant? I mean, it's become a very celebrated value in society to be open-minded, and what's right for you is right for you, what's right for me is right for me. So isn't this just a little narrow-minded or thinking here? So you may be struggling with a statement like that. That he's the only way to find truth? Really? He's the only way to find life? He's the only way to go to heaven? Isn't that kind of narrow-minded to say that only Jesus is hope? And some maybe say, I struggle with that. But guys, here's the thing about truth. We have to understand this about truth. Truth is narrow. Truth is narrow. Why? Because it's truth. 2 plus 2, no matter what you're counting or how you're counting it, is always going to equal 4. Why? Because it's truth. Is the phone company narrow-minded because they tell me I have to dial the same 7 numbers to call my wife? Well, that's narrow-minded that I have to get the same numbers. And not only do I have to use the same numbers, I have to use them in the same order. Is that the telephone company being narrow-minded? No. It's simply truth. Truth is narrow. And Jesus says, you want hope for your troubled heart? You want hope in the midst of the balloons of life popping around you? There's a way. There's truth. There's life, there's hope, and it is Jesus. And Jesus says, if you love me and submit your life to me, you can have security in your heart. You can have hope, because hope is made complete in Jesus Christ. And look, you may say, well, it's very narrow-minded. It's very exclusive of you to say that that's the only way. On one hand, Jesus is very exclusive, saying, this is the way. But on the other side, he is all-inclusive. Because it doesn't matter your age, and whether you're a man or a woman, black, white, yellow, green, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter your profession. It doesn't matter where you live. No, he is completely inclusive. How much more inclusive can you get than that when he says, you will find truth in me, and it's available to everyone. He's the way, the life, the truth. And Jesus' words came, just think about this. These words came from him right before he submitted his life for you and for me. And in this work of Jesus dying on the cross, we should find even more comfort, not only in the truth of what it's saying, but in the power of it. And it's demonstration of complete and total love that Jesus showed each and every one of us. And it's in this fullness, the completeness of Jesus' love for us, that we can see through the troubles of this world. Now, I'm going to pray here in just a second. But I want to give you a minute to pause and a minute to process. The points I put up there are one of those things. It's not the how-to in it, but it's the understanding of the foundation of hope. And maybe today you're facing a lot of balloons of life popping around you. My question to you today, where you're sitting or where you're watching online, very simply is this: what is your strategy for hope? What is your strategy for hope? How is it you're trying to find? Are you chasing after things, using strategies, using self-help, using all those things that really are not going to bring you hope? They're not going to bring you the change that you're chasing after, or it's only through the ultimate source of hope, which is the person of Jesus Christ. I get this. I mean, some of you may be here today and going, oh yeah, this is great. When I'm struggling, maybe that'll be good. If you're here today and life's going well for you, I still want to ask you the same question. When the inevitable happens in your life, when balloons pop in your life, what is your strategy to survive and have hope? Do we trust in God, in his ultimate power, in his ultimate knowledge, in his ultimate love? Are we focusing on eternity and embracing the fullness of Jesus? Are we continuing and centering our lives on things that ultimately will not bring hope? And I know for some of you here today, some of you watching online, you don't have hope because you don't have Jesus. And maybe today is the day. You need to drop the pose. You need to drop, your guard that you've had up in this and say, I need to surrender my life to Jesus Christ, ask for forgiveness of my sin, and find the ultimate source of life, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And if you want to experience the way, the truth, and the life, it's only through Jesus. And so I'm going to ask you all to bow your heads. Even at home, I'm going to ask you, if you're watching on TV, quit watching and bow your head. And I really want you to think about this. These few minutes are really just for you, between you and God. Zero in on these three areas. Let God speak to you. Let God guide you. What needs to happen in your life to draw closer to God, closer to Jesus, and embrace the ultimate source of hope. So bow your head. It's going to be silent. But let this time be a time to process. Heavenly Father, thank you that you are a source of hope. And I pray today that all across this auditorium, all across our our internet, our live feed, God, that people are finding hope in you, maybe for the first time ever. And maybe what you need to do today is say, Jesus, I am sorry for my sin. I need you in my life. Please forgive me my sin. I surrender to you. Come and lead my life. I know you are the way, the truth, and the life. And I want to be in connection with the Father through a relationship with you. And when you do that, you have the hope of God in your life. God, walk with us, be with us. Help us to be the people of hope that you want us to be. Praise in Jesus' name, amen. If you made a decision today, we want to know. Text us, Jesus for me, to 94,000. Let us know. Or fill out a connection card and let us know. We want to get you resources. We want to help you. Why don't you stand and sing as we go?
That's the promise. Your buried body began to breathe out of the silence. The roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on you. Yeah. Jesus, yours is the victory. Oh, hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. God, you are my living hope. Thanks for singing with us this morning. MCC, have a great week. You're dismissed. The sparrow's not worried about tomorrow.